Terrorists are at war with America, but does the president really believe we are fighting a war on terror? Well, some of his decisions in recent months indicate that no, he does not. Now, first came the news from Attorney General Eric Holder back in November that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and his 9/11 co-conspirators would be tried in civilian courts right here in the U.S. Then fast forward about a month to the aftermath of the Christmas Day bombing when the so-called underwear bomber was questioned by agents from a local FBI field office for only 50 minutes. 50 minutes, that's it. And after that, well, as if he were a petty criminal, the bomber was read his Miranda rights, and immediately he clammed up. Now, in recent weeks, the administration has justifiably been criticized over its decision to try this terrorist in a criminal court, which Eric Holder now says was his decision and one that was greeted with no objection from other departments in the government. But wouldn't you know it, just when Mr. Holder and the administration really started to feel the heat, the White House leaked to the entire world that all of a sudden the Christmas Day bomber is once again cooperating with the FBI. Well, how convenient. Now, Deputy White House Press Secretary Bill Burton was asked about this coincidence earlier today.
Ideally, this information would not necessarily come out.
Well, why, if it doesn't harm the investigation?
In order for the American people to know that we are doing everything possible to keep them safe, and in order for our continued success in this effort, we made the determination that it was a good idea to make sure that people knew that our sources and that our methods here were working.
All right, so politics and public opinion trump national security for this administration. Now, this concern appeared to have been voiced by Senator John McCain at a hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday. Now, he noted that decisions relating to the war on terror are being made by a law enforcement official, the Attorney General, Eric Holder, not the Department of Defense. And here's what Senator McCain had to say to Secretary of Defense Robert Gates.
I hope you will come to a conclusion as to how enemy combatants should be treated as far as their trials are concerned, and our ability to assure the American people that they will not be returning to the battlefield, and whether they should be tried and incarcerated in the United States rather than Guantanamo. We look forward to your views on that, because I view that clearly in your area of responsibility, not the Attorney General, who has obviously botched this one very, very badly.
All right, so with all of these critical mistakes being made by the Obama administration, listen to what the intelligence community has to say about when the next terror attack can happen here on American soil.
What is the likelihood of another terrorist attempted attack on the U.S. homeland in the next 3 to 6 months? High or low? Director Blair?
An attempted attack, the priority is certain, I would say.
Mr. Panetta?
I would agree with that.
Mr. Mueller?
Agree.
By July? All right, now here with reaction to all of this, our nationally syndicated radio talk show host, the host of the Jerry and Fred Show. Jerry Thompson and Fred Thompson are back with us. Why don't you put your wife's name in the name of the show? I don't get that.
Well, you know, she's wondering why should she step down. I mean, she's holding out for CEO now. I mean, thanks to you.
All right. Well, good to see you both. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you, too.
You know, first of all, what frightened me about, we only for 50 minutes interrogate the Christmas Day bomber. He says, more are coming, I trained with them, and then we allow him Miranda rights and allow him to clam up. I mean, what are we thinking here?
Well, can we first talk about Bill Burton? Yeah. Bill Burton talked about the American people need to know sources and methods. No, actually, we don't need to know sources and methods. He's supposed to be protecting sources and methods. We had a lot of friends at the Department of Justice. Not one time did they ever give either a backgrounder or a deep backgrounder or a press conference on what it was they were doing, how they were doing it. Look at security operations here. I mean, do these people know what they're doing?
Fred?
You saw two things in that clip I don't think have ever happened before in this country, not to my knowledge anyway. Number one, our top intelligence officials saying an attack is certain, in their opinion, next 3 to 6 months. Yeah. And the other is what Jerry's talking about, and that is an ongoing discussion of the progress making and talking to a national security related suspect.
We know more about what's going on with Farouk than we did about health care. I mean, we almost have a C-SPAN open-ended White House conversation last night with reporters, which we don't have about what's going on with Ben Nelson and health care.
And I say God forbid, because I lost kids that I graduated high school with on 9/11. We all knew Barbara Olson. What if this Christmas Day bomber who said, others are coming. What if the others are the ones that come in that 3-month period? You would think, just for political purposes, if they didn't realize the dangers, that they would understand that this is serious.
The FBI agents on the ground who made this decision apparently initially are reading the tea leaves. They know what's expected of them. They look at their boss, ultimately in this case the Attorney General of the United States, and the decisions he's made. First thing out, he decided to reopen cases against our own CIA agents. Right now, we've got open cases against CIA agents being investigated
and Navy SEALs
because of interrogation tactics. And then the decision with regard to the Christmas Day bomber, of course, and then trying Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in New York. All of those decisions and all of the statements that have been made indicate that we're more interested in what international opinion thinks than protecting this country, and these guys know what they're supposed to do. Treat it like an ordinary criminal case, or we're going to have somebody to answer to in the Justice Department.
I want Eric Holder fired. Let me be more direct.
First of all, he's in witness protection. Where is he?
Good question.
I mean, the last thing I know about Janet Napolitano is down, checking out the security at the Super Bowl. I guess Eric Holder must be up in Vancouver. Where are these people?
Well, and with a certainty this is going to happen. Let me look ahead to 2010, because I think national security in the end is going, those decisions are even far more dangerous than the quadrupling of the debt and the deficit. You realize that Blanche Lincoln, who's now down 23 points in Arkansas, literally said to the president today that there's no one in your administration that knows how to make a payroll?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's got 40 lobbyists, though, 3 of which are cabinet members, and one's the CIA director.
That's why it should be the Jerry and Fred show.
Well, we're getting people calling in now suggesting the same thing. I left the show one day, and our ratings went up. So, I'm squelching her from now on. But, Blanche Lincoln was literally correct. There's no one in their cabinet, literally, who came from the private sector.
Right.
And she's right. And Blanche, and what Blanche is doing is reflecting the concern that Democrats running for office the next time have. So she takes on the president before a national audience. That's how desperate some of these Democrats who are up for election are.
Yeah, I think it's too little too late. She really had her opportunity.
Yeah, I think so.
But there wasn't one Democrat that was brave enough to stand up to the president. No. Question, what do you expect in 2010? What are some of the pitfalls and dangers for the Republicans? Never underestimate a Republican's ability to blow it.
Sure. Well, look at Illinois. Look at Illinois. I think there's some, interesting things there. Now, one thing that's not being reported, I think, and it ought to be, is that the Republican turnout there was very heavy for Illinois. For Illinois, there was about, 7 million people came out. That's good for Illinois because there's not that many Republicans. But what we have to understand is that there's an anti-incumbency. I mean, there's a lot of polls out right now. John McLaughlin has a great poll on his website that's talking about the fact that most people who normally would have said, I like my guy, I just don't like your guy, throw the other bums out. For the first time in his history, John is saying that they want to throw their own guy out, Republican or Democrat.
But isn't this mostly a backlash against, corruption, the buying of votes in Louisiana, the buying of votes in Nebraska,
It's an uncertainty of people have no control over their lives anymore. They don't understand where they're going.
I think it's a rejection of Obama more than anything else.
No question about that. There's uncertainty with regard to the substance of these issues like health care. People are against it. It's clear. I mean, they're trying to give the president a little signal on that. Election after election after election. Poll after poll after poll. And then the procedure that you were talking about and all the corruption involved in that, it's terrible. And yet the Democrats and the administration are doubling down. They're still talking about health care and rushing it through and trying to get it in, by a reconciliation process, which is a bastardization, really, of the normal process if they do that. Cram it down at all costs. And I was telling Jerry, I've heard of people digging their own grave. I've never heard aning digging a grave, jumping in it, and then trying to throw the dirt on themselves. So,
all right, now you're catching up to her. You're beginning to. We're working hard.
Listen,
we got to run.
I'm on probation.
Good to see you. And nationally syndicated Jerry and Fred show.
You got it.
Coast to coast.
Thank you.
You're gonna. I am so dead after this interview. Much more to come. Here is a sneak peek.